Alright, guys, welcome back to my first My Two Cents video in a really long time. Wow. You know, one time I legit hoped to make this my channel's flagship series, and I've done so few of these that I can count all of them on both hands and like one foot, maybe. Maybe how many of these have I actually made? I don't even remember. That's beside the point. I'm just dwelling on my own failings. I need to stop. Anyway, I'd like to get back to doing these again, and I can't think of a better series to start with than one that I've been wanting to look into for quite some time, that being glitch texts. So this video is my 2 cents on glitch texts. It's a Netflix original Nickelodeon show brought about via the, I guess it's still semi-recent, partnership between Nickelodeon and Netflix. And as per usual, when making one of these, I haven't watched past the opening arc of the show, which in this case means the first episode. I thought I had seen the first 2 episodes, but then when I went back to refresh my knowledge of that opening storyline, I realized the first episode is just double length, and that's where I was getting confused. But that's beside the point. The malfunctions of my brain are not the point of this video, despite the fact that I keep talking about them. Because if you guys have forgotten the premise of this series, this is a series where I either talk about sort of my first impressions on something, or I talk about something that was important to me or formative for me in my childhood, basically through memory. This is my thoughts. I'm not taking opinions from anywhere else. I'm not taking information from anywhere else. So I have yet to watch anything past the sort of opening arc of this show where the characters Five and Miko discover, through various shenanigans, that their world, which has, I wouldn't say it revolves entirely around gaming, but it has a strong lean towards gaming, to the point that there are like massive virtual reality gaming competitions where you have to even make like realistic movements in real time yourself, like realistic acrobatic and like martial arts style movements yourself. They discover that the main corporation that sells literally every style of game in their world, a company called Hernândez, also has a group of glitch techs, tech support specialists who go out into the world and fight glitch entities which emerge into the real world out of the games that Hernândez sells. They are both incredibly good at gaming and prove themselves to also both be incredibly good glitch techs, and so they're hired on to work part-time for Hernândez as glitch techs, and that's the premise of the series. And I remember seeing trailers for this pop up on my Netflix, because of course they did. It's a Netflix original, and it's a cartoon, so of course they were showing me trailers for it. And I remember thinking, and I cannot stress how high a praise this is of a concept coming from me. I remember thinking, this looks like a Saturday morning cartoon. Because, and I do have a video about this planned, so I'm not going to go too in depth with it today, but I feel like episodic television in general needs to come back. And one of the hallmarks, one of the staples of episodic television, of Monster of the Week style television in the case of kids shows primarily, was Saturday morning cartoons. And I don't just mean like the cartoons that they happen to air on Saturday morning on Nickelodeon. I mean like actual Saturday morning cartoons where a network would block off part of their programming to air kids shows. They were probably trying to sell you something, and they definitely aren't as good as you remember, but they were mostly Monster of the Week style, or else otherwise episodic style kinds of stories. And granted, shows like that still exist. Don't get me wrong. Like My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, the block of television that rose up around that when it initially started to air. Those are fairly modern examples of that. The most recent Transformers cartoon, not the Netflix one, the one that aired on TV, Cyberverse, is it called Cyberverse? is a pretty good example of what I'm talking about, but it doesn't feel the same. Like even something like Cyberverse still feels like it's trying to tell a story first and be a problem of the week show second. And I know this sounds weird coming from me, someone who focuses so hard on the lore and story of shows. But I miss that era of television. I feel like that format of television gives you more time to breathe with the characters, because there can be entire episodes or even entire groupings of episodes where there aren't very many stakes. Things are pretty chill. So even if your show does have more serious themes or like actual dangerous villains or whatever, and your story will eventually come to a head where that stuff will have to be dealt with, you still have all this time to breathe with your characters and get to know them and form audience character relationships with them, if that makes sense. And I don't know for sure that Glitch Text is going to turn out to be that kind of show. Maybe it will be very heavily arc story driven from this point forward, but it set itself up as an excellent character driven monster / problem of the week show. It literally ended, this initial episode literally ended with our newbie heroes teaming up, sort of, with a veteran hero to defeat a monster of the week. So even if it literally isn't a Saturday morning cartoon style show, it still feels like one. At least at this point, and I liked it simply on those merits. I liked it on other merits as well, don't get me wrong, but first and foremost, I liked it on those merits. The other things I liked about it, though, let's get this out of the way right away, is first of all, it seemed to kind of be homaging that exact era of television that I'm talking about, at least for me. That the specific sub-era of that era of television that I grew up with. The video game-centric, I won't say world, because again, this entire world didn't seem to revolve around video games, but like the importance of video games to the core cast of characters, and how like little video game style pop-ups and stuff will pop up throughout the episode. It gave it a high-tech video game competition kind of feel that reminded me of Mega Man NT Warriors, if you've ever seen that anime. And like the fact that this Hinobi company seems to be literally the only video game tech provider in this world gave me serious Kaiba Corp vibes from Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't know if they were deliberate homages or just things that I picked up on that I was reading too much into, but I liked it nonetheless. And that's what matters, right? If I'm the one watching the show, my enjoyment of it is what matters most in that moment, right? But those things may be unintentional. I also really liked how diverse the show is. If I'm not mistaken, maybe I'm getting this wrong, maybe they're like a blended family or something, but Miko's family seems to be biracial. Like you've got a white dad and an Asian mom, which I thought was neat. And I don't like her parents really at all. They came off as kind of neglectful, like almost to the point of me wanting to call them abusive in this video. I'm not going to get into that here, though. They were not great. They seem to prioritize the likes of their other children above the likes of Miko, which I know she's a protagonist, I'm supposed to side with her, but I did in this instance because she clearly is into different stuff than the other kids are, to a point, right? And like, I get it, big family, lots of kids, you have to find a middle ground, compromise, and please as many of them as much as you can, as often as you can, right? But when she tells her parents that there's a once-in-a-lifetime major gaming tournament that she can only participate in today, and she was given a special invite to it by the company hosting it. She doesn't mention that she could win a part-time job from this, but that seems like enough to me that if I were in her parents' place, it would have piqued my interest for her sake, right? And then she tells them that she can log in from home. They don't even have to take her anywhere. She doesn't have to interrupt their family day. They just have to let her stay home. I would have let her stay home. Like, I get this is a kid who games a lot, and she's kind of woo, crazy, right? She's one of those super energetic, acts before she thinks kinds of characters, right? So I get maybe they'd be initially dismissive, but they didn't even hear her out, and that bugged me. But like the other main characters, they weren't his parents, they were like his grandparents, so guardians, I guess, were super supportive. He didn't even tell them that he got the invite. They found out about it themselves, and when they realized how good an opportunity it would be for him, they encouraged him to go, even though it would mean he wouldn't be able to work for them at their food stand, their food truck, which might be detrimental to them, which is why he didn't want to go in the first place. He was thinking of them before himself, but they put him first. They encourage him to go and pursue this dream of his. I liked them a lot. They were fantastic. And it was a really reassuring sort of dynamic to see. Because, like, they got these wristband things that were their invites and also their pass to the tournament. And he drops his, and the moment he drops it, I think, oh no, he's been working up the courage to tell them about this, because he seems nervous, right? They're going to find it and tell him he can't go, and that's going to be the conflict of the episode or something, right? But no, they're understanding and encouraging, and they encourage him specifically to put himself first, to think about his future. And frankly, I'd like to see more parents and or guardians in kids' fiction who behave that way, who are so willing to put the needs of their kids before themselves, not just in like dangerous situations, but in everyday situations like this one. So I liked all of that. I liked what we got of the Glitch Tech characters, like the characters who I assume are going to be our supporting cast. Again, haven't seen past the first episode, but I assume it. They seemed designed well enough that I imagine they're all going to be recurring characters, if that makes sense. We didn't get a lot of them aside from, like, I'm going to call him the main antagonist of the first episode, because he basically was. Like, there was a monster that the kids had to fight in this episode, but his name was Mitch, I think. I don't even care. I liked him as a character, but I didn't like him as a guy, right? There was a monster that they had to fight in this episode, and he still came off as the main antagonist. He was cool as an antagonistic character. The other characters, what little we got of them, were okay, were fine. I look forward to learning more about them. The action was pretty good. The tech seems neat. And it's not as if the show isn't already setting up overarching plot points. Like, there's this thing that the glitch techs do to not only undo the property damage that the glitches do, but also to keep people from remembering about the glitches. Hopefully just so that they don't freak out, but I'll talk about that in a second. Resetting, they reset people. And it's basically like the flashy thing from Men in Black, but it also undoes damage to property at the same time somehow. But it basically lets you reprogram a person's memories and or reset their memories to an earlier state, right? And for whatever reason, Miko is immune to it. They get an error message every time they try to reset her. So already, the question of why that is, how that's possible, is looming over the show, right? And maybe I'm wrong, but I also feel like they're setting up another mystery. What specifically are the glitches and where do they come from? Because unless I missed something in my 2 viewings of this first episode, they don't explain where the glitches come from, specifically. What specifically they are, above and beyond the fact that they're living computer programs that manifest as characters from whatever game they glitch through. Like, as far as I picked up on, that's all we know about these things after the first episode. And maybe they explain things down the line, or maybe they don't. I don't know. I certainly hope they do, because as things stand, it really seems like this company that has an apparent monopoly on the gaming industry in this world, their tech causes these glitches somehow. And that they operate the glitch techs to cover their asses. And that's problematic to me because while resetting seems to be able to undo property damage, there is absolutely no indication that it could undead someone. If that makes sense. Like, it's probably too grim for a show like this because this is a kid's show from Nickelodeon. But it seems to me that if someone died because of one of these glitches, they would just be dead. And it's not as if the glitches are incapable of killing people. They have real physical presence. Even if they physically somehow couldn't kill a person, they can knock buildings down. Those buildings could fall on someone, they could die. So unless it turns out that these glitches are just a thing that are going to occur, and the existence of the Hinobi gaming tech forces them, locks them into manifesting into a form that can be fought using video game style tactics, or something like equally innocuous, right, is revealed about these things, it seems to me that Hinobi is responsible for the existence of these creatures. And that whether they have the glitch techs or not, it's irresponsible of them to continue to operate knowing that these things exist. I also don't like the idea that they seem to have a monopoly over gaming in this world. Like I said, it reminds me of Kaiba Corporation from Yu-Gi-Oh! But Kaiba Corporation from Yu-Gi-Oh! As a company is like more powerful than God. Straight up. It's amusing, and I enjoy it as part of the story, but they are too powerful, and I'm kind of worried that Hinobi is going to turn out to be too powerful too, right? I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe I'm not supposed to think about these things. Maybe I'm supposed to just turn that part of my brain off and enjoy the cool video game style monsters and antics. But I can't help it. I can't help thinking those things. Hopefully, if I'm not supposed to think about them, I'll get over it as I continue to watch the show, because I do intend to continue to watch this show. It amused me very much. I also want to shout out the dynamic between Five and Miko. Like, Five is a more thoughtful player, and while he's still physically capable, Miko is a bit more physically capable, and her impulsiveness kind of reminds me of Tai from Digimon. Like, she takes action when action needs to be taken, and her instincts are good, right? So you have this more thoughtful character who plans things out, and this more action-oriented, intuitive character, and they make for a solid team dynamic. The two of them balance each other out. And Miko even seems to be sort of, I don't really know how to describe it, the tough guy, the tougher of the two characters. Like, when she realizes that she can't be reset, she shields Five from being reset at this point for the second time. She just steps in and does it, and he lets her. He is totally okay with letting this girl protect him. I like that a lot. I only kind of wish that the final battle against the big monster at the end of the episode had been a little more tactical, rather than basically just showing off the cool things that their glitch tech gauntlet thingies could do. But the action was still cool and stylized. I still enjoyed it quite a bit. I could be reading into this show way, way too much. Maybe it's not the kind of show that I think it is. Maybe it's not the kind of show that I got the impression that it is from this first episode. But if it is, I get the sense that I'm going to enjoy this show quite a lot. And while I can't say that I am right about where I feel this show is going, I will say that if you're someone who likes solid Monster of the Week style cartoon antics, you might want to check this one out. It's pretty good. And considering that several of you guys have asked me a couple times a piece in a few instances to watch this show and talk about it, and I do intend to talk about it more. Once I finish Season 1, I plan to review Season 1 properly. I'm assuming that you guys like it. Those of you who have seen it like it. Just a hunch. But really, that's all I have to say about glitch text today. This has been my 2 cents on this topic. I encourage you to check back in when I post my next 2 cents video on Craig of the Creek, a show which I have a little bit of experience with, but which I have been meaning to watch a bit more of and form a more solid opinion about for a while. In the meantime, though, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.